Dick and Liz Cheney wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal called Restoring American Exceptionalism, and you're going to see that neocons have chugged the Kool-Aid and believe the indoctrination that America is some kind of divine power in the world. So it's a truly scary piece, and I implore you to read the entire thing on your own because I can't go through every single aspect of it here. I'll go through quite a bit of it, but not all of it. So definitely read this piece on your own, but listen to some of what they have to say here. So they say the following, quote, "In 1983, as the U.S. confronted the threat posed by the Soviet Union, President Ronald Reagan explained America's unique responsibility. It is up to us in our time, he said, to choose and choose wisely between the hard but necessary task of preserving peace and freedom and the temptation to ignore our duty and blindly hope for the best while the enemies of freedom grow stronger day by day. It was up to us then, as it is now, because we are the exceptional nation. America has guaranteed freedom, security, and peace for a larger share of humanity than any other nation in all of history. There is no other like us. There never has been." Okay. So I tweeted out this article earlier, and I was basically laying out for everybody how when you read something like that, and the stuff that follows, which we'll get to in a second, the only conclusion I can come to is American exceptionalism is not only a religion to a guy like Dick Cheney, it's a fundamentalist religion. Because listen to the way he words this stuff. He's saying that it was up to us then and now to preserve freedom, whatever that means. Of course, he never goes into specifics about that because the specifics will be ugly. He says, because we are the exceptional nation. America has guaranteed freedom, blah, 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 blah. Again, where are your specifics on that? What exactly does that mean? Give me some examples. He can't do it. And he says, we're unlike any other nation in all of history. There's no other one like us. There's never been. There never will be. So what's the core idea that he's getting at there? The idea he's getting at is not only is America right, we are right by definition. We are right because we are American, and we are American because we are right. So in other words, it's a very dangerous kind of logic. Because what that means is, if you've already decided that we are correct, no matter what, well then you can justify doing anything. Because as long as you're the good guys, and as long as you've decided my intent is fantastic and beautiful and gorgeous and cannot be wrong, well then, why not do, for example, CIA torture? Why not wage offensive wars against nations that didn't attack us? Why not have 900 military bases all around the world? Why not spend 57% of discretionary spending on the military? Why not do all that stuff if in your mind those things are not wrong on the plain face of it? They're right because we do those things, but we're American. So we have different rules. Now, of course, if Russia did all the same things we do that I just laid out for you here, if they had 900 military bases around the world, if they spent 57% of discretionary spending on the military, if they were the ones who've, waged offensive wars against countries that didn't attack them, if they did that, would there be an argument in the mind of Dick Cheney like, oh, come on, you can't call them a terrorist nation, you can't call them aggressive, you can't call them bad, they're Russian. It's Russian exceptionalism. You can't get mad at them, they're Russian. No, you'd look at that argument and go, that may be the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. So dismiss all these facts which tell a very terrible story here. Dismiss them because, if anything, that's evidence that we're so great, because I view anything and everything as evidence that we're so great. It's not that the torture makes us the bad guys by definition. It's that the torture's okay when we do it because it's us and we're exceptional, so we're allowed to do it. You, of course, are not allowed to do it, but we're allowed to do it because we've been given this mission. Again, what did I call this? Fundamentalist religion. So this is very, very similar to what not only fundamentalist Christians say, but what also fundamentalist Muslims say. Go listen to any fundamentalist Muslim talk, go listen to anything they've ever written. They'll explain to you, no. First of all, Sharia is right by definition. You get to subjugate people, you get to keep women down, you get to kill gay people, and we, of course, can be more militaristic. We can take over more territory because, hello, we're the good guys. So, but wait, again, so the action, you can't judge the actions themselves on their own merits if they're wrong. You can't do that because we've already decided we're the good people, so the actions are irrelevant because we think our intent is good. Same thing fundamentalist Muslims say. Our intent is good because we're standing up for the right value system. We're standing up for Sharia. So if we do war, if we do torture, it's okay because the idea behind it and the intent behind it is we're the good people, we know we're the good people, and our system would be the best system, so we're allowed to do it. That's exactly what Dick Cheney believes, except instead of trying to implement Sharia, what he's trying to do is essentially take everybody's natural resources and have more geopolitical power and strength. All right, and give more power to the corporations, of course, as we've seen under the Bush administration and as the neocons have made perfectly clear. All right, let's continue. They say, born of the revolutionary ideal that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, we were first an example to the world of freedom's possibilities. During World War II, we became freedom's defender. At the end of the Cold War, the world's sole superpower. We did not seek the position. It is ours because of our ideals and our power, and the power of our ideals. As British historian Andrew Roberts has observed, in the debate over whether America was born great, achieved greatness, or had greatness thrust upon her, the only possible conclusion must be all three. No other nation, international body, or community of nations can do what we do. It isn't just our involvement in world events that has been essential for the triumph of freedom. It is our leadership. For the better part of a century, security and freedom for millions of people around the globe have depended on America's military, economic, political, and diplomatic might. For the most part, until the administration of Barack Obama, we delivered. So I love how he's, in his mind, he thinks Obama's some sort of liberal pacifist who's gotten us disengaged from the world. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've gone after Obama because in many ways, his foreign policy is too far right-wing. Obviously, he's done things that are much better than the neocons, like attempting to get peace with Iran and Cuba. But in many other areas, with his drone campaign and with continued actions in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria, he's kind of agreeing with a guy like Dick Cheney. So that's ridiculous right there. But notice how ahistorical Cheney's argument is. He's saying, well, come on, World War II, we were the good guys, which is true, which is totally true. I've said time and time again I would have done World War II. You absolutely could have justified World War II purely on self-defense. So he goes, well, we're the good guy in World War II. Therefore, everything we've done after World War II, well, what can we do? We just inherited this position as the world's sole superpower, so we must protect freedom and democracy and all these great Enlightenment ideals around the world. What's he leaving out? What's he omitting? In Dick Cheney's mind, that idea of protecting freedom and democracy includes, for example, overthrowing a democratically elected leader in Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, who was elected because he said to the Iranian people, I will stop giving away our oil to the West. I will make it so that I nationalize the oil industry and you, the people of Iran, get some money for the oil that is yours. So there you have a guy who said, I will no longer be a puppet of the West, I am democratically elected, and I will do the right thing by my people. And what did the U.S. do? The CIA admits to this. The documents have been released. We went in there, toppled the Democratic leader, and put in the Shah, a dictator. See, in Dick Cheney's mind, when you overthrow a democratically elected leader and you put in a dictator, he says, I have preserved freedom. But wait, freedom was the person who they freely elected, who they democratically elected, Mohammad Mossadegh. So the guy you overthrew democracy, you overthrew freedom, and you put in an authoritarian. So that's the opposite of what you claim to do. By the same token, where did the term banana republic come from? It came from the U.S. overthrowing governments in South America because our banana corporations, Chiquita Banana, wanted cheaper bananas. So you go in there, you overthrow a democratically elected leader, you put in a dictator who tortures his own population, brutalizes his own population, and you take the natural resources. So again, you overthrow a regime that is free, you overthrow a regime that is democratic, you put in a dictator, and then you turn around to the rest of the world and go, I am a protector of democracy and freedom. Then why did you just overthrow the person who was democratically and freely elected? Because it's not about what you say it's about. You're hiding behind the idea of, I believe in Enlightenment values for everybody, in order to perpetuate a system which keeps you in power. You're trying to perpetuate a system that gives you and your corporate buddies natural resources, and you're being a standard imperialist nation. This idea that only America can do what we're doing, we're so special, there's never been anybody like us, and there never will be anybody like us. Every single empire functioned in a very similar way to how America is functioning right now. That is simply a historical fact. I don't care. You pick the fucking empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Malian Empire, the different Chinese dynasties. All empires are convinced our values are correct, our values are right, so we should spread our values around the world using force. They think they're the good guys, but in reality, the people in power are using that as an excuse to get more power, keep more power, and take natural resources and have more geopolitical strength and try to stay on top. It has nothing to do with actual Enlightenment values. How do I know that? Dick Cheney himself doesn't believe in Enlightenment values. If you call torture, you do not call for torture. You don't believe in Enlightenment values. If you were against gay marriage when you were in power, as he was, you don't believe in Enlightenment values. If you're for the drug war, you want to talk about freedom and liberty, somebody putting in their body what they want to put in their body and they're not hurting anybody else. Dick Cheney believes in the drug war, which takes away freedom. And then you go around saying, I believe in freedom? Well, then how the fuck are you in favor of the drug war? You don't even believe in these Enlightenment values that you pretend like we're defending around the world. And if you look at the list of the countries we've invaded post-World War II, for fuck's sake, we didn't even pretend to have a humanitarian mission in most of those interventions. So it's just not true. And then finally, let me leave you with this line because this is most important and it's very ominous. This is later on in his article. Listen to what he says. So he gets into the Iran deal later on in his article, and he says this. The Obama agreement will lead to a nuclear-armed Iran, not true, a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, not true, and more than likely, the first use of a nuclear weapon since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You want to know why that should terrify you? Dick Cheney already said this once. In an interview, I believe, with Sean Hannity not too long ago. Now him and Liz wrote it in a Wall Street Journal piece. So it's not like it wasn't like it wasn't a slip-up when he said it previously on TV. He now sat down, thought about it, and wrote it out in an article. He said, the peace deal with Iran, the nuclear peace deal with Iran, may lead to the first use of a nuclear weapon since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What is he referring to? The Iranians don't have a nuclear weapon. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. The deal makes it so that they don't have a nuclear weapon. So who is going to end up using nukes for the first time since Hiroshima or Nagasaki? What are you saying, Dick? What he's saying is, well, we might not have a choice. You've put us in a corner, and either us or Israel might have to use a nuclear weapon against somebody else, probably Iran, because, well, I mean, they're such bad people. They're such barbarians and savages, and we're such good people, and they're threatening the very concept of American exceptionalism here. So, because we're so right and because we're so just, we might be forced to use a nuclear weapon against the Iranian people who just literally signed a fucking peace deal. We might have to do it. They said the first use of a nuclear weapon, it is more than likely that the first use of a nuclear weapon since Hiroshima and Nagasaki will happen now because of the peace deal. So the irony of this whole thing is, his entire article, he's ranting and raving about how Americans are so great, Americans are so special, Americans have the right values, we should spread those values, I believe in American exceptionalism, we should spread them, etc., etc. So he says all of that, and then in the article towards the end, he says, we're such good people that we might have to nuke you. Well, I go back to my original point. That proves that Dick Cheney does not see the world in a nuanced way where he says actions are right or wrong. So torture is wrong. Killing is wrong. All these things are wrong. Fighting in self-defense could be justified. But all these negative things, restrictions of freedom, all that stuff, they're wrong. But Dick Cheney doesn't see it in that way, which is nuance. He sees it as individual tribes. He believes in old school tribalism. He believes in a very fundamentalist religious idea, which is, it doesn't matter if we do something which is viewed as wrong when other people do it, like torture, like offensive wars. Since we're Americans, it is good, it is moral, it is just by definition. So if we want to torture, if we want to kill innocent people, if we want to wage offensive wars, if we want to muse out loud about nuking Iran, well, since we're the good guys, we're allowed to do that. But don't you dare respond in kind, because if you do, you're a terrorist.